Tony D and Little Joan is asleep on the couch, and this is a screenwriter's rant on Gale Stay Away from Oz, a horror version of Wizard of Oz, kind of a sequel. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 10. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Makes a great Christmas gift. Anywho, so this is Emily, the granddaughter of Dorothy Gale, the character from The Wizard of Oz, and of course, she's having problems, and she goes to a tarot card reader because it's a horror movie. No one goes to anybody but a tarot card reader in a horror movie. Her grandmother has been in a psychotic state since, I don't know, since the 40s, because she's been broken by the supernatural forces of Oz. See, now this is like a dark version. Like, no, it wasn't nice and happy, her trip to Oz. It was horrible. And so Emily goes to see her, and when she touches her hand, she starts chanting, "Stay away from us, stay away from us." And she turns into a monster briefly. That's about all we know. And then this guy, the tarot card reader, there's a jump cut with, like, I assume as a witch. And then we get an hourglass. And that's about it, really. Let's see. Can't read these credits. Let me blow them up a little bit. That's better. That's better. A film by Daniel Alexander, starring Chloe Culligan Crump and Dennis Hodge and Stacey Davenport and Karen Swan and Tanisha White. Don't know any of that cast. Written and directed by, edited by, and director of photography, Daniel Alexander. Okay, so this appears to be a very low budget thing because Daniel is just doing everything. Written, directed, director of photography, editing. Is he a producer too? Yeah, he's a producer. Of course he would be. Sound design, Daniel Alexander, co-sound design. He's got his fingers in every pie on this movie. Well, I have to admire that to a certain degree. At the same time, I don't know if this premise can work. I don't know if I want it to work, you know. Wizard of Oz is kind of a happy movie, and this is trying to make it dark. It's kind of like The Thing, you know, where you turn something. I mean, you could turn anything into a horror movie. They tried to turn the Banana Splits into a horror movie. I called it out. I thought it was stupid. I mean, take anything, right? Take a Monopoly game. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, and like in a haunting voice with piano music in the background. Oh no, where's the little car? Like, I mean, you can make anything into a horror movie. And that's what this feels like. Like, okay, now we're going to do it to Oz. Because, you know, and on some level, it is known. It's a known commodity, so there's a commonality there. But at the same time, it's kind of a ridiculous story. So how are you going to transform this into something so grounded we could actually be scared of it that it might happen to us? Right? I mean, the tornadoes don't seem to be in it. There's a shot of them looking at a picture, looking at the old pictures that the old lady has, and one of them's obviously of Toto, which I thought was funny because they had to work Toto in it. They keep showing the Scarecrow. They don't really show any of the other characters, and they don't show the Scarecrow like walking around. They show a Scarecrow. I don't know how you make this work. I really don't. It's just, you're just reinterpreting, I guess, all the stuff from The Wizard of Oz as something scary, and then Emily gets sucked down the rabbit hole, and then I don't know, you know, instead of the Wizard of Oz, instead of the Emerald Kingdom, it's going to be something dark and disturbing, and I don't know, that drinks blood or eats people. Literally anything could be made into a horror movie if you just. I mean, they've done it on the internet, right? They've taken happy shows and cut them as horror movie trailers. And that's what this feels like. It's like, and I get why he's doing it, because he's trying to generate some interest in a film that, if it had been completely original, probably wouldn't have much interest, right? I mean, let's say you called this movie, I don't know, Psychotic Granny, and it's about, the same thing, except it has nothing to do with Oz. It's about a woman who's broken by supernatural forces and her granddaughter who gets sucked in. How do you sell it? See, when you tie it into something like The Wizard of Oz, you instantly have some kind of market. Oh, this is going to be dark Wizard of Oz. Part of the problem, though, is The Wizard of Oz is pretty damn old. Now, granted, they've shown it on TV forever, and everybody kind of knows it, but typically horror movies are aimed at the young, because you take your date to the horror movie when you're a teenager, and then everybody gets scared. It's like going to a roller coaster or something. Your date gets scared and hides her eyes into your shoulder, and then, hey, you got some contact. So, I don't know if this is very relatable to a teenager. I mean, even a teenager may, at this point, it's so late in the game for The Wizard of Oz. It's such an old movie. Yeah, they do show it on TV. Who watches TV anymore? Unless it's a 20-second YouTube clip, I don't know if they even know what The Wizard of Oz is for those teenagers. On top of, forget about the woke stuff. The characters are female. I guess you check those boxes, but it just feels like, yeah, we're going to do a horror movie. Yeah, we need something familiar. All right, let's use The Wizard of Oz. That's it. And I guess the original book is now in the public domain, or has been. So that's another factor. It's basically free. You're not going to see the characters from the actual movie. This is going to be based on the book. Comic book guys have been doing this for years, actually. Return to Oz and things like that. Stories where usually it's Dorothy going back to Oz as an older woman, or her daughter or whatever, and fighting, and then you get to see the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, how they've done since she's been away from Oz, and the various things have happened, and it's just, some have been relatively happy, and then others are more sort of serious, comic booky, an excuse for fight. The War in Oz, I think, was one, or at least the storyline. That's a way to go, I guess. Just, I don't know, just doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of interest to me, other than the fact, I am impressed Daniel's doing everything on the movie. It looks good. It looks professional. I like the look of this. Yeah, I'm just not sure how much interest you've really generated. It all comes back to the same thing. And I'm not picking on this movie because it's a low-budget movie, and I root for them. But Hollywood in general don't seem to want to gravitate towards original ideas. And I know why, because it is a risk. Original ideas, and screenwriters, you have to acknowledge this in your own brain. They are a risk, because I've been pitching original ideas for years, and even when I got one that's fire, and people go, "Yeah, that's a good idea," it's still super hard to get the funding for it because ultimately it's all about that, and that's what the business is. So they almost never fund something just because of a good idea. Almost never. I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, although I'm sure they exist. But they're very few and far between, especially for unknown quantities. Which is part of the reason why there's so many unoriginal movies, right? There's so many unoriginal movies because, as a young screenwriter, you start out and you're pitching stuff and you're trying to get known, and they're just not interested. So what do? You may pitch something like this because it's kind of a known quantity. People get on board with it because of the marketing angle. They don't even care about the quality, let's say, of the story. Again, I'm not knocking this in particular. And then that's where you lead young screenwriters, young creatives down that path, and then that's all they do because they want to get paid. And then they never learn the ability to really delve deep to make original stuff. They're so used to taking something that existed and reinterpreting it. It's all they do now in Hollywood, right? It's just a reinterpretation of everything. And now we're at the point where we're reinterpreting The Wizard of Oz, a movie that's, is it 100 years old? I mean, it's getting up there. I forget how old it is. It's definitely like 80 or 90. It's not 100. It couldn't be 100, but it's close. The book is definitely, I think, over 100, isn't it? It's just very frustrating. So, I wish Daniel well on this. It does look great. I'll say that. It has a really nice look to it. He worked on the sound design. Look at this shot. That's a nice shot. I like the lighting on that and everything. The sound is good. The pacing's nice. Everything for a horror movie, including the tarot card reader, who was horribly murdered, I assume. Even the casting's nice. This guy, he looks like a horror movie guy, doesn't he? So I'm not knocking this movie. I think it could be pretty watchable. In fact, I would probably check it out. I wouldn't go to the theater for this, but I would definitely watch it at VOD, and it's probably going right to video on demand. So, not seeing a release date. It says 2022, may already be out, but I think this just dropped. So, here's a little bit of a synopsis. Long gone are the days of the Emerald Cities and yellow brick roads. In this dark reimagining of The Wizard of Oz. God, I hate that term, reimagining. Dorothy Gale is now an elderly woman broken by years of paranormal entanglement with the mystical realm, which has now echoed down to her only living relative, Emily, who is being called to settle unfinished business in this terrifying world of Oz. A Daniel Alexander film. Yeah, that's not a bad pitch, except I wouldn't call it a reimagining. It's really a sequel when you think about it. But I guess they can't call it that legally, because it doesn't have anything to do with the other movie. So that's the best they could do. It's a reimagining. But God, I hate that term. But I wish Daniel well. I'm going to look for this. Because I also think it'll probably be a nice short movie. And I hate movies that are like 2.5 hours long and they feel every second of it. And more. So, Gale, Stay Away from Oz. Good title, too. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. We'll be doing a live stream at 7 p.m. tonight. Sunday at 7 with Tony D and Little Joan. I'll get Little Joan. I'll force Little Joan to sit on that seat, at least for the beginning of the stream. She'll probably move. And then videos on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble. I'm going to be doing those later. Thanks for tuning in. See ya on the live stream.